"You are done giving orders," Officer Mark Halstead said as the handcuffs closed around Vanessa Cole's wrists. The words landed harder than the cold rain striking the shoulder of the highway. Vanessa stood beside her disabled sedan, 42 years old, dressed in a charcoal business coat and dark slacks, her posture controlled even as red and blue lights washed across the wet pavement. On the hood of her car, a secure phone flashed a bright warning. Priority breach detected. Response required. A countdown had already begun. Vanessa looked at the screen, then at Halstead. "Officer, you need to let me answer that call." Halstead picked up the phone before she could move. The device vibrated sharply in his hand. Its screen displayed a government security seal and a string of encrypted numbers. He frowned, then held it away from her. "You can explain all of this at the station." Vanessa kept her voice steady. "That device is connected to a federal response network. Do not unlock it, and do not remove it from the vehicle." Halstead gave a short laugh. "You were standing beside an unmarked car near a restricted access road, holding encrypted equipment, and refusing to follow simple instructions." "I asked why I was being detained," Vanessa replied. "That is not refusing an instruction." A younger officer, Tyler Boone, stood several feet away near the patrol car. He looked from Vanessa to the identification badge resting on the hood beside her laptop case. The badge carried a federal seal, her photograph, and a clearance stripe that Boone did not recognize. Halstead had already dismissed it as something anyone could print. Boone said nothing. The rain thickened, tapping against the roof of the sedan and gathering in small rivers along the curb. Vanessa felt the metal around her wrists, the chill moving through her sleeves, and the familiar pressure to remain calmer than anyone else in the scene. Her father's voice returned to her from years earlier. "Speak slowly. Keep your hands visible. Never let someone else's fear become your character." She drew one careful breath. "My vehicle did not simply break down," she said. "It was disabled remotely. I was reporting the incident when you arrived." Halstead's expression hardened. Now the car was hacked. "Is that the story?" "It is not a story. It is a technical assessment. There is a laptop in that case containing protected material. You need to contact the number printed on my badge before moving anything." Halstead stepped closer. "You do not control this stop." Vanessa looked past him at the phone. The countdown had dropped below 2 minutes. Somewhere less than 20 miles away, a team inside a secure operations center was waiting for her response to confirm whether the failure in her car was isolated or part of a larger intrusion. She had been driving home to Maryland after an emergency briefing, thinking about the dinner she had promised her daughter, when the dashboard went dark and the engine lost power. She had guided the sedan onto the shoulder, activated the encrypted handset, and begun sending a report. Then the police lights appeared. Boone reached toward the badge but stopped when Halstead glanced at him. "Dispatch says the plate comes back clean," Boone said carefully. Halstead did not look away from Vanessa. "Clean does not mean harmless." Vanessa heard the sentence and understood what it really meant. He had already chosen the conclusion. Everything after that was being arranged to support it. The secure phone gave one final warning tone. Halstead dropped it into an evidence bag. The screen dimmed behind the plastic. Vanessa watched the countdown reach 0. Then the connection disappeared. The patrol car door closed behind Vanessa with a dull mechanical sound, sealing away the rain and most of the highway noise. Through the wet window, she watched Halstead stand beside her sedan while Boone remained near the hood, studying the federal badge and the locked laptop case without touching either one. Vanessa could not hear their conversation, but she saw Boone gesture toward the badge again. Halstead shook his head and waved for the tow truck waiting farther down the shoulder. The decision had already been made. Vanessa sat upright in the back seat, her hands restrained in front of her, her breathing even despite the pressure building behind her ribs. She had spent most of her adult life moving between rooms where one wrong word could shift millions of dollars, expose national systems, or place lives at risk. Calm was not a personality trait for her. It was a discipline. Outside work, that discipline looked different. It meant helping her 16-year-old daughter Maya study for chemistry tests at the kitchen table. It meant checking the locks twice before bed, and remembering which groceries were running low. It meant keeping her professional life quiet enough that neighbors thought she worked in ordinary information technology. Vanessa preferred it that way. Secrecy protected more than classified files. It protected routines, family dinners, and the fragile normal life she had worked hard to build in suburban Maryland. That morning, Maya had stood by the front door in a school hoodie, reminding her about dinner. 6:30, she had said. No emergency meetings. Vanessa had smiled and promised to be home. Now the dashboard clock in the patrol car read 5:48, and the secure phone sat sealed in plastic on the hood of her disabled vehicle. Halstead opened the driver's door and slid behind the wheel. Boone took the passenger seat. Neither officer looked back at her. Vanessa spoke first. My vehicle must remain where it is until federal security personnel inspect it. Halstead started the engine. The tow company will handle the car. A tow company is not cleared to handle that equipment. You have my identification. Verify it. Halstead adjusted the rearview mirror until his eyes met hers. You keep repeating yourself as if that changes the situation. It changes the situation if you follow procedure, Vanessa said. Boone shifted in his seat. I can call the contact number on the badge, he offered. Halstead glanced toward him. We are not calling random numbers provided by a detainee. Vanessa heard the word detainee and felt the meaning settle around her. Less than 15 minutes earlier, she had been leading a classified response team. Now she was being described as though her name, credentials, and warnings had no value. The patrol car pulled away from the shoulder. Through the rear window, she watched the tow operator approach her sedan. He reached toward the laptop case. Vanessa leaned forward. Officer Boone, stop him. That case has tamper protection. Boone turned to look, but the patrol car had already moved too far down the highway. Halstead kept his eyes on the road. Sit back. Vanessa did, not because Halstead was right, but because she knew every movement could be rewritten later. The station was 12 miles away. During the drive, the radio carried ordinary traffic reports, a noise complaint, and a request for assistance at a grocery store. Nothing about the federal alert. Nothing about the missing response from her team. Vanessa looked at the gray sky beyond the window and counted the seconds between her breaths. When they arrived at the station, Halstead opened the rear door and led her through a side entrance under buzzing fluorescent lights. A desk sergeant looked up from a computer. What do we have? Suspicious activity near a restricted route, Halstead said. Possible fraudulent credentials. Resisting detention. Vanessa stopped walking. I did not resist. Halstead did not turn around. The sergeant began typing. Vanessa looked at the blank incident form appearing on the screen and understood that the next danger was no longer on the highway. It was becoming permanent in writing. The desk sergeant finished typing and turned the monitor slightly away from Vanessa, but she had already seen enough. The words appeared in clean black lines, stripped of tone, stripped of weather, stripped of everything that had actually happened. Subject became argumentative. Subject refused repeated commands. Subject attempted to interfere with evidence collection. Vanessa stood beneath the fluorescent lights and felt the strange weight of language being used like a locked door. Officer Halstead removed the handcuffs only after leading her into a narrow processing room with pale walls, a metal table, and a camera mounted near the ceiling. Boone remained by the doorway, holding the evidence bag that contained her secure phone, federal badge, car keys, and personal wallet. The laptop case had not arrived yet. That absence concerned her more than anything else. Where is the computer case, she asked. Halstead pulled out a chair. Sit down. Where is it? The tow operator has the vehicle. Vanessa looked at Boone. Did you document the chain of custody? Boone hesitated. Halstead answered for him. You are not conducting this investigation. Vanessa sat slowly. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and old coffee. Rainwater darkened the shoulders of her coat, and a single drop slid from the edge of her sleeve onto the table. She watched it spread into a small uneven circle. Halstead opened a form and began writing. He moved with the confidence of someone who believed the report would become the truth simply because his name appeared at the bottom. Captain Laura Bennett entered a few minutes later. She was in her early 50s, with silver at her temples and the measured expression of a person accustomed to controlling difficult rooms. Halstead stood. Boone straightened. Vanessa remained seated. Bennett looked over the initial report, then studied Vanessa. Dr. Cole, she said, using the name from the badge but not the title with any respect. Officer Halstead says you were found near a restricted federal route with secured electronic equipment and refused to cooperate. I cooperated, Vanessa said. I asked why I was being detained, warned them not to move protected devices, and requested verification of my credentials. Bennett turned a page. The report says you repeatedly attempted to direct the officers. A warning is not an order, Vanessa replied. It is still a warning when the person hearing it does not like the source. Halstead leaned back against the wall. There it is again. That attitude. Vanessa looked at him. Precision is not attitude. Bennett raised one hand. Let us keep this simple. Sign a statement acknowledging that you became upset, failed to follow instructions promptly, and created confusion at the scene. We can likely resolve this without formal charges. Vanessa read the paper Bennett placed in front of her. The language was carefully softened, but every sentence turned cooperation into defiance and caution into obstruction. She pushed it back across the table. I will not sign something false. Bennett's expression cooled. You may want to reconsider. Vanessa kept her voice even. I am requesting a phone call and immediate verification of my federal identification. Bennett looked toward Halstead. Has the badge been checked? Halstead shrugged. Not through any system I trust. Boone spoke quietly. The seal appears legitimate. Halstead gave him a warning glance. Bennett ignored the exchange. You can make a call after processing is complete. Vanessa looked at the evidence bag on the side counter. Her secure phone remained dark behind the plastic. The silence from it felt unnatural, like a monitor that had stopped showing a heartbeat. The operations team would have triggered backup protocols by now, but they would not know whether she had been isolated by the attackers, injured on the road, or compromised. Every minute without verification increased the chance that they would shut down systems unnecessarily, or miss the origin of the intrusion. Vanessa folded her hands on the table. Captain Bennett, the delay is no longer only about me. Bennett closed the folder. Everyone thinks their situation is urgent. Vanessa met her eyes. Mine was classified before your officer made it personal. Captain Bennett held Vanessa's gaze for several seconds, then opened the folder again as if the right arrangement of paper might restore control. Halstead remained against the wall, arms folded, while Boone stood near the evidence counter with his eyes fixed on the sealed phone. The room had grown colder, or perhaps Vanessa only noticed it now that the damp fabric of her coat had begun to cling to her shoulders. Bennett slid another form across the table. This is a temporary detention acknowledgement, she said. Sign it, and we can move you to a more comfortable room while we complete the verification process. Vanessa did not touch the pen. There is no verification process happening, she replied. You have my badge, my credentials, and a contact number. You have chosen not to use them. Bennett's mouth tightened. You are making this more difficult than it needs to be. No, Vanessa said. I am refusing to make your report easier to defend. The silence that followed was broken by a knock at the door. A property clerk entered carrying Vanessa's locked laptop case inside a clear evidence container. Boone looked surprised. I thought it was still with the tow company. The clerk set it on the counter. The driver brought it in 10 minutes ago. Said the case started making a warning sound when he moved the vehicle. Vanessa's attention sharpened. Is the car here? No, the clerk said. It was taken to the municipal impound lot. Vanessa closed her eyes for one brief second. The vehicle should never have been moved, she said. Halstead pushed away from the wall. We are not taking technical instructions from someone under investigation. Vanessa looked at the evidence container. A small amber light blinked near the lock, steady and slow. The case had entered tamper mode. That meant the internal system had detected unauthorized movement and begun isolating its contents. It also meant the team at the operations center would now assume the device had been compromised. Officer Boone, she said, do not allow anyone to open that case. Boone glanced toward Halstead. Vanessa continued before Halstead could answer. If the seal is broken without the correct authorization sequence, the device will erase its active session and trigger a federal security alert. Halstead gave a humorless smile. Convenient. Bennett turned to the clerk. Leave it there. Nobody touches it until we know what it is. The clerk nodded and left. Vanessa watched the door close. At least that much had been understood. Bennett returned to the paperwork. You have described yourself as a federal employee, a technical director, and someone handling classified material. Yet you were driving alone in an ordinary sedan with no escort. Vanessa answered calmly. Most national security work does not look dramatic from the outside. Bennett leaned forward. Then help me understand why we should believe you. Verify the badge, Vanessa said. That is how you understand. Halstead stepped toward the table. Captain, she has been directing every person in this building since she arrived. Boone finally spoke. She has also been right about the case, the badge, and the car being disabled. Halstead turned. Stay in your lane. Boone did not look away. I am trying to. The words changed the air in the room. Bennett looked from one officer to the other. Halstead pointed toward the report. The body camera will show she would not follow instructions. Boone's face tightened. My camera will show she asked questions and kept her hands visible. Halstead stared at him. Bennett closed the folder slowly. We will review the footage after the report is complete. Vanessa heard the order beneath the sentence. The written version would be established first. The evidence would be forced to catch up later. She looked at the camera in the corner of the room, then back at Bennett. Captain, preserve every recording from the roadside, the patrol car, this room, and the evidence counter. Bennett gave a thin smile. You are still not in a position to issue demands. Vanessa's secure phone suddenly lit inside the evidence bag. The black screen filled with a white seal. Then a single line of text appeared. Identity confirmation required. A loud tone sounded once, sharp enough to freeze everyone in the room. Boone stepped closer. Bennett stared at the screen. Halstead reached toward the bag. Vanessa's voice cut through the silence. Do not touch it. This time nobody laughed. Halstead stopped with his hand inches from the evidence bag. The secure phone sounded again, not louder this time but more deliberate. Identity confirmation required. Vanessa watched the white seal pulse against the dark screen. She knew the protocol. The device had re-established a limited connection through its emergency channel, but only long enough to confirm whether she was safe, compromised, or unable to respond. If the confirmation failed, the system would escalate without her. Captain Bennett looked at the phone, then at Vanessa. What does it need? My voice and a 6-digit authorization code, Vanessa said. Bennett hesitated. Halstead lowered his hand but did not step away. You could be sending anything through that device, he said. Vanessa turned toward him. That is why the call should have been verified before you placed it in an evidence bag. Boone looked at Bennett. Captain, we should let her answer under supervision. Bennett's eyes moved to the camera in the corner, then to the locked laptop case with its amber warning light. The room no longer felt like one she fully controlled. She nodded once. Put the phone on the table. Boone carried the evidence bag over carefully and placed it in front of Vanessa. The plastic crackled beneath the fluorescent lights. Bennett unlocked the outer seal but did not remove the phone. You will speak clearly, she said. No coded phrases beyond what the device requests. Vanessa almost smiled at the contradiction. The entire system was built on coded phrases. Still, she kept her expression neutral. Boone activated the speaker function through the plastic. A calm automated voice filled the room. State identity. Vanessa leaned closer. Dr. Vanessa Cole, Director of Cyber Defense Response, Authorization Level 7. Halstead's face changed slightly at the title, but he said nothing. The phone prompted for the code. Vanessa recited 6 numbers from memory. There was a pause, then a different voice came through, human this time, controlled and immediate. Dr. Cole, this is Colonel James Whitaker. Confirm status. Vanessa looked at Bennett. Detained by local law enforcement, she said. My vehicle was moved without federal inspection. My secure laptop is in police custody. My access badge was not verified. The line went silent for less than 2 seconds. Then Whitaker's voice returned, colder than before. Captain, identify yourself. Bennett straightened. Captain Laura Bennett, Westbridge Police Department. Colonel, we are conducting a lawful investigation involving suspicious activity near a restricted route. You are holding a cleared federal director who was actively responding to a national security incident, Whitaker said. You will preserve every body camera recording, patrol vehicle recording, dispatch log, evidence record, and written report connected to this detention. You will not open the laptop case. You will not alter the incident report. You will not move Dr. Cole again without her consent unless there is an immediate safety concern. Halstead stepped toward the table. With respect, sir, she was resisting instructions at the scene. Boone looked down. Vanessa did not move. Whitaker answered calmly. Officer, the secure line is recording this conversation. Federal investigators are already en route. If your body camera supports that claim, it will be reviewed. If it does not, your report will also be reviewed. Halstead's confidence vanished from his face as quickly as breath from glass. Bennett looked toward Boone. Your camera was active? Boone nodded. The entire time. Halstead turned sharply. You told me the audio cut out near the vehicle. Boone met his eyes. I said the signal indicator flickered. I did not say the audio was gone. The room fell silent. Bennett reached for the report folder, but Vanessa placed one hand over it before she could lift it. Do not change a word, Vanessa said. Bennett froze. Whitaker heard her through the speaker. That is correct. The original report must remain exactly as written. Captain Bennett slowly removed her hand. Outside the room, footsteps approached through the hallway. More than one set, measured and fast. Boone looked toward the door. Halstead looked at the body camera clipped to his chest as though he had only just remembered it was there. Vanessa sat beneath the fluorescent light, her damp coat still cold against her shoulders, and listened as the station's front entrance opened. Then a voice from the hallway announced that federal investigators had arrived. The door opened, and 3 people entered with the quiet efficiency of those who did not need to announce their authority twice. The first was a woman in a dark federal jacket carrying a sealed evidence portfolio. Beside her walked a technical specialist with a hard equipment case, followed by a man in a gray suit who showed Captain Bennett his credentials before anyone spoke. Special Agent Renee Morgan, he said. Department of Defense Inspector General Liaison. This room and everything connected to Dr. Cole's detention are now subject to evidence preservation. Bennett's face remained composed, but her fingers tightened against the edge of the table. Halstead stepped back from the wall. Boone stayed near the door, his body camera still recording. Vanessa watched the investigators move through the room. Morgan photographed the sealed phone, the laptop case, the unfinished forms, and the position of every person present. The technical specialist examined the amber light on the computer case without touching the lock. Tamper mode is active, he said. No breach detected yet. Vanessa released a breath she had not realized she was holding. Morgan turned to her. Dr. Cole, are you injured or in need of medical attention? No, Vanessa said. I need confirmation that my vehicle and equipment are secure. And I need to contact my response team. We are arranging both. Morgan looked toward Bennett. Remove the detention status. Bennett hesitated. We have not completed our investigation. Morgan's voice did not rise. You may continue any lawful inquiry after preserving the original evidence. At present, your own documentation does not establish a basis to keep her here. Bennett glanced at Halstead, but he offered nothing. Boone stepped forward and removed the property receipt from the counter. Her badge was never entered into the verification system, he said. I asked twice. Halstead's eyes narrowed. That is not what happened. Morgan turned toward him. Do not discuss the incident with other involved officers until separate statements are taken. Halstead fell silent. The handcuffs were already gone, yet Vanessa still felt their cold outline around her wrists. She rubbed one thumb across the place where the metal had rested, then stopped. She would not let the room watch her pain and call it proof of weakness. Outside, rain traced thin silver lines down the small window. The station had become strangely quiet. No radios crackled nearby. No one shuffled paperwork. Even the fluorescent lights seemed louder now. Morgan placed a clean notepad in front of Vanessa. Before you return to duty, I need a brief timeline in your own words. Vanessa looked at the blank page. Less than an hour earlier, Halstead's version had begun becoming permanent in black ink. Now she had a chance to place the truth beside it. She wrote the time her vehicle lost power, the moment she activated the secure phone, the officer's arrival, the refusal to verify her badge, the tow order, and the statements made inside the processing room. Her handwriting remained measured and even. When she finished, Morgan read the first page without interruption. The technical specialist then opened the evidence bag under camera supervision and handed Vanessa the secure phone. Its surface was cold. The screen recognized her face and restored a limited connection. 23 missed priority alerts appeared at once. Vanessa called Colonel Whitaker. "I am available," she said. "Status?" "The intrusion was contained," he replied. "Your missed confirmation forced a wider shutdown, but the critical systems remained protected. We traced the remote signal that disabled your vehicle. It was part of the same attack." Vanessa closed her eyes briefly. Her warning had been correct. Bennett heard every word. Halstead did too. Morgan requested Boone's body camera footage. A monitor on the wall came to life. The first image showed Vanessa beside her car, hands visible, voice calm, asking why she was being detained. Then Halstead's voice filled the room. "Stop resisting." On the screen, Vanessa was standing completely still. The footage continued beneath the cold light of the processing room. Vanessa stood beside her disabled sedan with both hands visible, speaking slowly while rain gathered along the shoulders of her coat. Halstead ordered her to face the vehicle. She complied. He told her not to reach for the badge resting on the hood. She stopped immediately. When she asked whether Boone could read the federal contact number aloud, Halstead stepped between her and the car. Then his recorded voice declared that she was refusing instructions. On the screen, Vanessa had not moved. No one in the room spoke. The body camera captured the secure phone flashing red. Vanessa warning that the alert required an immediate response, and Halstead placing the device inside the evidence bag without attempting verification. It also recorded Boone reading part of the badge number before Halstead cut him off. Special Agent Morgan paused the video. "Officer Halstead," she said, "identify the action you described as resistance." Halstead looked at the frozen image. Vanessa's hands were open at her sides. Her posture was straight. Her face showed concern but no aggression. "She kept challenging my authority," he replied. Morgan did not blink. "That is not a physical action." Halstead shifted his weight. Her language was confrontational. Vanessa looked at him for the first time since the footage began. "I asked you to verify my identity." Halstead turned toward her. "You spoke as though you were above the stop." "No," Vanessa said. "I spoke as though the facts mattered more than your assumption." Morgan resumed the recording. The patrol car footage showed Vanessa sitting upright in the rear seat, warning that the laptop case required a protected chain of custody. Halstead's report claimed she had continued shouting and attempting to interfere. The audio revealed a controlled voice and long stretches of silence. Then the station camera showed Captain Bennett placing the prepared statement before Vanessa and suggesting that she admit to becoming upset in exchange for a quick release. Bennett's face tightened as her own words filled the room. Morgan paused the footage again. "Captain, why was a statement prepared before the identification badge had been checked?" Bennett folded her arms. "I was trying to resolve the situation efficiently by asking her to confirm events that the recordings contradict?" Morgan asked. Bennett did not answer. Boone stood near the doorway, pale but steady. Morgan requested his account separately. He explained that he had questioned the detention, noticed the federal seal, and offered to verify the badge. He also admitted that he had followed Halstead's directions despite believing Vanessa was cooperating. "I should have done more," he said. Vanessa watched him carefully. Boone was not innocent simply because he had been uncomfortable. Silence had still carried the accusation forward. Yet his decision to preserve the camera footage had protected the truth when the written report tried to replace it. Morgan turned to Vanessa. "Dr. Cole, is there anything you want added before we begin formal interviews?" Vanessa looked at Halstead, then Bennett, then Boone. She thought of her daughter waiting at home, the dinner growing cold, and the emergency team forced into a wider shutdown because one officer had considered verification beneath him. "Do not investigate them because they arrested someone important," she said. "Investigate what they were willing to do when they believed I was not important at all." The sentence left no room for defense. Morgan closed the evidence portfolio. "Officer Halstead, surrender your badge and department equipment pending investigation." "Captain Bennett, you are relieved of supervisory authority effective immediately." Bennett's breath caught. Halstead stared at Morgan as though the room had betrayed him. Boone lowered his eyes. Vanessa did not smile. Careers were not being destroyed by a phone call. They were being measured against choices already recorded. Outside, the rain had begun to ease. A thin line of evening light appeared beneath the clouds, reaching through the station window and across the table where the false statement remained unsigned. The false statement remained on the table, while Special Agent Morgan assigned separate rooms for the interviews. Halstead was escorted down one hallway. Bennett was taken toward her office under supervision. Boone stayed near the processing room door until an investigator asked him to wait elsewhere. For the first time since the highway, Vanessa was alone with her secure phone, her federal badge, and the sound of rain fading against the window. The technical specialist confirmed that the laptop had entered protective isolation before any classified session could be accessed. Her vehicle had been located at the municipal impound lot and placed under federal control. The larger network threat had been contained, though the unnecessary shutdown had affected several systems and delayed critical work across multiple agencies. Vanessa listened without interrupting. Relief came slowly. It did not erase the hour that had just passed. Morgan returned with 2 paper cups of coffee and placed one near Vanessa. "I know this does not fix anything," she said. Vanessa wrapped her hands around the cup but did not drink. "It helps with the cold." Morgan sat across from her. "The department will issue a corrected record tonight. Your detention status will be removed. The original report will remain preserved as evidence." Vanessa looked toward the unsigned statement. "Good." Morgan continued. "The preliminary findings support suspension for Halstead, removal from command for Bennett, and a formal review of Boone's conduct. There will also be an audit of prior resisting cases involving this unit." Vanessa's eyes lifted. "Prior cases?" Morgan nodded. "When language in one report is contradicted this clearly, we examine patterns." Vanessa thought of how easily Halstead had used the words, "Stop resisting." He had said them before she moved, before he verified anything, before he allowed the facts to enter the scene. The phrase had not described her behavior. It had prepared the story he wanted to tell. Morgan studied her. "You have every right to request criminal review, civil action, and public disclosure." Vanessa remained quiet for a moment. Then she set the coffee down. "I want accountability based on evidence. I want every affected record examined. I want officers trained to distinguish questions from threats and precision from defiance. I want supervisors prohibited from offering release in exchange for false admissions." Morgan wrote each request carefully. "And what do you want for yourself?" Vanessa looked at her badge lying beside the phone. "I want my daughter to know why I missed dinner without teaching her that this is simply something she must accept." The answer softened Morgan's expression. "We can arrange transportation home after the final statement." Vanessa shook her head. "I need to return to the operations center first. The attack that disabled my car was intentional. My team needs me." Morgan leaned back. "After everything that happened here, you are going back to work tonight?" Vanessa picked up the secure phone. "The people who did this are still being traced. The systems do not become less important because I was treated badly." Morgan nodded slowly. That was the difference between authority and responsibility, though neither woman said it aloud. An hour later, Vanessa walked through the main lobby instead of the side entrance where she had been brought in. Several officers stood behind the desk, silent as she passed. Boone waited near the exit, no longer wearing his body camera. "Dr. Cole," he said, "I am sorry." Vanessa stopped. Boone looked down at his hands. "I knew something was wrong, and I stayed quiet because he outranked me." Vanessa held his gaze. "Then remember this feeling the next time silence feels safer." Boone nodded. She did not offer forgiveness, but she did not humiliate him either. Outside, the rain had ended. A federal vehicle waited beneath the parking lot lights. Vanessa stepped into the cool evening air, called Maya, and listened as her daughter answered on the first ring. "Mom, where are you?" Vanessa looked back once at the station, then toward the road ahead. "I am safe," she said. "I am going to finish something important, and then I am coming home." 3 months later, Vanessa walked through the Pentagon's secure operations corridor beneath rows of cool white lights. Her badge unlocked each glass door with a soft electronic tone, and every panel closed quietly behind her. The events at the police station had become part of a formal investigation, but she rarely spoke about them unless the facts required it. Officer Mark Halstead had been dismissed after investigators found multiple reports that used the same language despite conflicting video evidence. Captain Laura Bennett had lost her command position, and faced disciplinary review for pressuring detainees to sign inaccurate statements. Tyler Boone remained on administrative duty while cooperating with the wider audit. Several older cases had been reopened. Some records were corrected. Some families were finally contacted. None of it felt like victory to Vanessa. Justice was slower and less dramatic than people imagined. It arrived through interviews, timestamps, preserved recordings, and signatures placed carefully at the bottom of honest pages. Inside the main Cyber Defense Center, a wall of screens displayed stable networks across military and civilian systems. The attack that had disabled her car had been traced to a foreign contractor working through stolen credentials. Her missed response had caused a broader shutdown, but the protocol she designed months earlier had contained the breach before critical systems were reached. Her team had added a new safeguard after the incident. If a cleared responder failed to confirm during an active emergency, identity verification would now be routed through multiple agencies instead of depending on local cooperation. Vanessa reviewed the final status report, then placed her tablet on the conference table. Colonel James Whitaker stood near the window overlooking the inner courtyard. "You changed more than one system," he said. Vanessa glanced at him. "Systems only change when people admit where they failed." Whitaker nodded, understanding that she was not speaking only about computers. On a smaller screen near her station, a muted news report showed the Westbridge Police Department announcing new evidence preservation rules, revised detention procedures, and mandatory bias training. Vanessa watched for only a moment before turning the screen off. Public statements were useful, but she had learned to trust what happened after the cameras left. Her secure phone vibrated beside the keyboard. For a fraction of a second, the sound pulled her back to the roadside, the rain, and the red countdown disappearing behind plastic. Then she saw Maya's face on the incoming video call and answered. Her daughter appeared in the kitchen at home, still wearing her school sweatshirt, with a chemistry book open beside a plate of pasta. "Are you leaving on time today?" Maya asked. Vanessa looked at the clock. 6:12. "I'm walking out now." "You said that yesterday." "Yesterday I was still working. Today I am keeping my promise." Maya smiled. "I saved you dinner." Vanessa's expression softened. "I will be there in 30 minutes. She ended the call but left the phone resting face up beside her badge. Around her, analysts continued speaking in low voices while maps shifted across the large screens. No one in the room knew what the simple promise meant to her. She gathered her coat and walked toward the exit. At the final security gate, the scanner flashed green. The glass doors opened onto the evening light, and the American flag beyond the courtyard moved gently in the wind. Vanessa paused only long enough to feel the warmth on her face. Then she stepped outside, not as someone rescued by power, but as someone who had refused to surrender the truth when others believed she had none.